Also, right now on the Club 52 hotline, great friend of mine from Vero Beach, loves the NBA as much as I do. And he made a crazy proclamation last week about the Indiana Pacers. We need an update on this. His name is Chris Pirtle, and you can follow him on Twitter at ChrisPirtle42. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing exceptional, Mark. It's 10 days until the start of the NBA playoffs, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, last week, and I agree with you, last week on the show, you said that the Indiana Pacers are in a tailspin, and they're probably going to lose in the first round. And we made a bet where I said, look, I'll buy you dinner if it happens. Are you sticking with your guns after what you've seen here the past couple of days? Do you still think there are problems with the Indiana Pacers?
Oh, I certainly do. You know, Mark, they didn't disappoint. The following night after I made that prediction on your show last week, they got beat by the Toronto Raptors in a game where Toronto didn't have their starting point guard, Kyle Lowry. And then 2 nights later, they got destroyed by the Atlanta Hawks at home by 19 points that day. So I'm certainly sticking to the bet. The only thing I would like to revise, if we use fish and steak dinner, I'm just hoping we could change that to Mexican, because I'm a huge fan of Mexican food, and hopefully we can make that modification if this comes through. Okay,
I like it. And here's the thing. Last night they won the game, but they didn't play any of their starters like they're the San Antonio Spurs. They're still 54-25, half game up on the Heat. I mean, people are acting like they're the 9th seed, like they're the Knicks. I mean, it's still a very good basketball team, right, Chris?
Well, yeah, I think it tells you something last night. A very interesting move by Frank Vogel last night to bench all 5 of those guys. Turns out Indiana's worst beat Milwaukee's best. And I'm not talking about the beer. So
no.
if your second string can beat another NBA team, yeah, you've certainly got some depth, and you certainly have some talent on that team.
Oh, man, you did that perfectly. I might have to owe you some Milwaukee best after that joke. That was pretty good. What about the Miami Heat? You lose to the Nets, then the next night you go to Memphis and it's on national TV. They lose by 5, and I made this joke to start the show. It's the Miami LeBrons. There's no one else showing up for this team. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Miami Heat right now?
Gosh, you're certainly right about that, Mark. LeBron is absolutely getting no help from his teammates. Bosh was a disappearing act last night. Michael Beasley has vanished from the team. I'm sure Spoelstra has some reservations about relying on Beasley, and quite frankly, if you do have to rely on Michael Beasley, then you're probably not going to win anything anyway.
No, it's a good point.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, man.
Oh, I was just going to say the Heat are certainly cause for concerns. They've lost 3 out of 4 games. They're sort of backing into the playoffs, similar to the Indiana Pacers. So they've got to answer some questions about themselves. But I would say this: if you have a healthy Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James, their big 3 is much better than anybody else's big 3, especially in the Eastern Conference. So going to be interesting to see what happens playoff time.
Okay, here's the thing with LeBron. 37-6-5 in the loss last night. He does not have, like you're saying, a 2 or 3 option with him. They're a half game out of the best record in the Eastern Conference. Couldn't you make a case like he's the MVP again, and maybe we should slow down on just gift wrapping that award to KD 35?
You sure can, Mark. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I will make a case for LeBron James as the MVP. He averages 27 points. KD's at 32%. But LeBron James shoots 57% from the field.
Man.
You know, and his percentage has gone up, Mark. One thing, I saw this stat last night, found it very interesting. His field goal percentage has gone up every year he's been in the league now. 11 straight years, so that's exceptional, 57%. He also has 1 more assist per game than KD does. And I would ask you this: if you have a Game 7 of the NBA Finals and you get to add 1 small forward to your team, either Kevin Durant or LeBron James, who would you put on your team?
Oh, it's rhetorical. It's LeBron, because he's making Michael Beasley look good out there once in a while. Okay, I'll throw it back at you. Does Durant really make his teammates better at the same level that LeBron does?
I wouldn't think so. I think LeBron's passing ability, his ability to facilitate, his ability to have more steals than Kevin Durant, and those run-down blocks those are things that get your team going much better than somebody that sits out there and makes a lot of shots. Obviously, you need that to win those games, but it's the intangibles that LeBron James brings to your team, and that's why, to me, he's the MVP of this league another year.
Well, I'm here with my buddy Chris Pirtle from Vero Beach, loves the NBA. We're talking some NBA Eastern Conference headlines, and look, LeBron, I'd make a case as well where maybe he should get the vote for another MVP, but you go into the playoffs, you're right, it's all about Dwayne Wade. If he's not there, if he's not 100%, you talked about Indiana losing. I can see a Chicago or maybe, I don't know, a Nets team. I could see them beating the Heat if they don't have Dwayne Wade. I mean, what are your thoughts on that idea?
It's very possible. As we saw last night, Mark, if Bosh is struggling and there is no Wade, then the Miami Heat are a very ordinary team.
Yeah.
There's definitely some vulnerability. I want to remind everybody, though, of Game 4 last year in the NBA Finals. This was Game 4 in San Antonio.
Okay.
And it's a game, if the Heat did not win this game, as we know, they would have never even made it to Game 7 because they would have already been eliminated. But in Game 4 last year of the NBA Finals, Dwayne Wade scored 32 points, had 6 rebounds, and 6 steals. And the Heat won that game by 16 points in San Antonio. So you're right. If they don't have Dwayne Wade, they might not make it out of the East. But if they do have Dwayne Wade, they may be celebrating another parade this year in downtown Miami.
I agree with you 100%, Chris. I think it's the number one storyline going into the playoffs. And let's go to the Western Conference. I want to start with, forget the teams at the top. We can praise them all you want later. But you look at the bottom there, racing from the 6th seed down to like the 9th seed. It's a logjam. One or two teams, you got Golden State, Dallas, Phoenix, Memphis. How do you see this playing out? I mean, who's going to be in and who's going to be out?
This is going to be fun, Mark. I'll tell you what, this is a great way to preview what is going to be an unbelievable Western Conference playoffs this year, just to see who is going to get those final 2 seeds. My opinion, I see a tough schedule for the Phoenix Suns, so I think Memphis and Dallas are going to get that 7 and 8 seed. But I'll tell you what, Phoenix is playing some good ball right now. It's a great story. This is a great way to end the regular season with sort of a playoff atmosphere for these next 3 or 4 games. So I think it's great for the league, and I certainly can't wait till those Western Conference playoffs start because that's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I know you love your Warriors out there in Golden State, but they're the 6th seed. 1 or 2 slips down the stretch here, they might miss the playoffs. I know it's crazy to say, but that could be a possibility. How disappointed are you with what Golden State has done of late?
Well, they have been disappointing, and they've also had some history issues. I've got to look at the fact that they haven't had David Lee and Andrew Bogut for most of these last 10 or 15 games. And any team that's missing the 4 and 5 position, as good as players as those are, they're going to be hurting too. The last 2 games, they've won by over 30 points in each game at home. Steph Curry has been completely incredible. And I'll say this, when you have a guy like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson doing what they've done, these 2 guys and that Golden State team almost took out San Antonio in the second round last year. And that was a team that didn't have David Lee. He wasn't healthy at the time, and they hadn't yet acquired Andre Iguodala. So Golden State is a team I want to tell everybody, look out for them in the playoffs. The only problem I think they may run into is they may play the Clippers in the first round. So you talk about a first-round matchup, that's going to be some fun to watch.
What about the Grizzlies? When you saw them last night, I mean, it's a very, just trying to think here, they have not reached potential like they did last year going to the Western Finals, but you look at them with that down low with Zebo, and you also have Gasol, and you got Connolly at the wing there. I'll tell you, if you get in, they can make some damage. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Grizzlies?
Those are 3 highly skilled players. They have a legitimate big 3 in Memphis with Conley, Gasol, and Big Zach. They bring in a lot of players off that bench. Courtney Lee has given them some excellent minutes this year since they've acquired him from Boston. The Grizzlies could definitely make some noise. As I told you last week, I see Oklahoma City exiting this party in either the first or second round this year. The Grizzlies could wind up with the 7th seed and have to play Oklahoma City, a team they eliminated last year in the playoffs. So, yeah, the Grizzlies can definitely make some noise, and if it's a Memphis-OKC matchup, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Memphis Grizzlies to win that, and to echo your point that the Memphis Grizzlies will make some noise in the playoffs.
All right, what about San Antonio? If we're going to go Game of Thrones, it's like they're in the chair. They're the top dog in the Western Conference. Can anyone knock them off, or do you think like they're going back to the finals?
Well, I think they can be beaten. They really got some good news on Monday when Tony Parker's MRI came back negative. They missed him the other night. They're going to miss him tonight in Dallas, but he's set to return in the following game. The Spurs are going to run into some tough teams, Mark. It's very possible they could hit the Houston Rockets in the second round. The Rockets look like they're going to be a 4 seed. So if both teams can win their first round matchup, we'll have a San Antonio versus Houston second round. Yeah, that's going to be dynamic. And then if the Spurs are lucky enough to make it past the Houston Rockets, they're going to have somebody like the LA Clippers or Golden State Warriors waiting on them. So they've got a tough road, as does any team that's going to make it out of the West. But, yeah, the Spurs can definitely be beaten, Mark. This West is wide open. And I'll say it again for the 20th time, it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm going to end with this. We're here with Chris Pirtle. Give him a follow on Twitter at ChrisPirtle42. Clippers they're pretty good. I know you like to hype them. Is that a Clippers town now, or is that still going to take 5 years and winning some championships before you can kick the Lakers out of the Staples Center?
Yeah, that's still a Lakers town, but it can be taken from them, and they know it. And if they don't make some moves this year in free agency, get some players in there, and at least start going back to the playoffs, that will be a Clippers town in a couple years. People have short memories in a lot of cases. So for now, and maybe the next year or so, it's going to be a Lakers town. But Doc Rivers has plans on changing that. You know, he already had a lot of those Laker championship banners removed when the Clippers are playing. So Doc wants to get rid of that notion that that's a Lakers town, and I wouldn't put it past him.
All right, so here's our bet. If you're right where the Pacers lose in round 1, I got to buy you Mexican food. What do I get? Do you need time to think about this, and then we'll come back next week and talk about it?
Yeah, let me think about that. What is your favorite food, Mark?
Now you got me laughing. You're going down, buddy. That's all you need to know. I'm going to get back to you on what food you're going to buy me if you're wrong. But Chris Pirtle42 on Twitter. Thanks for talking some NBA with me, and let me get you on next week closer to the playoffs.
You got it, Mark. I'll tell you what, we'll go with deep dish Chicago-style pizza.
I like
for
it.
You.
Yeah, good stuff. I'll see you later, man. Thanks.
You got it. Have a good one.